Viewer discretion is advised. Brittany Bowens has not yet been charged with her involvement in the disappearance and death of her daughter, Malia Davis. Darren Bentz has only been charged with tampering with evidence, mainly a corpse, and no one else has been named or investigated in connection with this case. And I was wondering about the phone records. What do the phone records say? You know, these people today, they cannot live without their phones. And one thing I learned about these phones is they track your every move, whether you want it to or not. Go look in your Google Maps, and your Google Maps will tell you that every place you've went and stopped and drove by. So if it can show that Darren Bentz was in Arkansas, you know he's guilty. What about the route that Darren Bentz supposedly took when he was abducted? What will the phone records show? Will his phone records show that there was communication between him and Brittany Bowens the entire time that she was supposedly leaving until the time that he went to the hospital? Who else was in communications with Darren Bentz during this whole time? What about his brother? Has his brother's phone records been looked into? Will his brother's phone records show that he went to Arkansas? Will his brother's phone records show that he was at the hospital at the time that Darren Bentz was dropped off at the hospital? Will his phone records show that he was in communications with Brittany Bowens during this whole ordeal? Because when a reporter asked Brittany Bowens whether or not she communicated with Darren Bentz's brother, she did not answer. Will Joe Jr.'s phone records show that he was at the house of Brittany Bowens and Darren Bentz during the time that Brittany Bowens was supposedly out of town? What will Brittany Bowens' phone records show? In an interview that she conducted with her friends, someone asked her what time did she leave to go to the airport. Her friend mouthed 9:30, but Brittany Bowens said 8:30. What time will the phone records show? Were all of these people corresponding with each other? Brittany Bowens and her friends and Darren Bentz and his brother, since they all really knew each other. Will Brittany Bowens' phone records show that she left her mother's house, went and picked up Darren Bentz and took him to the hospital? What was the mood in the house before Brittany Bowens went to Massachusetts? What was the mood in the house days prior to her leaving to Massachusetts? People today are so childish that they can be living together in the same house and will still text each other. The day Brittany Bowens was at home when she said Darren had snuck Malia back in the house, what was she doing during that time? Will Brittany Bowens' phone records show that she got a call from Arkansas? Because she kept saying that Darren Vince tried to converse with her, but she kept ignoring his texts. And when Darren Vince was texting Brittany Bowens, what was his exact location? Did Darren Vince text Brittany Bowens the whole while she was in Massachusetts? Because remember, she said she texted some ugly things to him about infidelity. So I'm quite sure he's mad and upset if that's what happened. And I'm quite sure he texts her pretty much all day, every day. He texts me crazy messages. You left me at home with your sick daughter. Your baby daddy instead of knocking on the door. I know how to end all of this. Just suppose this was an elaborate scheme to kill Malia so that they can be together. And whatever the method was, they killed Malia. And she was supposed to go away to Massachusetts. And while she was away in Massachusetts, Darren Vince was supposed to get rid of the body, a place where no one could find it. But Darren Vince got nervous and dumped the body on the side of the road in Arkansas. He was supposed to beat himself up or get someone to beat him, and he couldn't come to really hurting himself that much. So he gave himself a few scratches. And then when his story didn't pan out right, it sounded suspicious, he clammed up, chose not to speak at all. When Brittany Bowens returned from Massachusetts, she saw that Darren Vince had goofed up. So she decided to hire her an attorney. She knew that someone was going to find out that she was at home during the time she said that she was catching the plane. She knows that the phone records is going to expose her. And I know this for a fact. I don't care what you try to do in secrecy in life. Someone is going to see you. Someone knows the truth. And with a little pressure, someone is going to tell the truth. Brittany Bowens lied and said that when she left to go to the airport, Malia wasn't there. And now we find out that that is a lie. Darren Vince is charged with tampering with evidence. Someone has to be charged with murder. Will it be Joe Jr. or will it be Brittany Bowens? One of the reporters had asked Brittany Bowens, why didn't she leave Malia with a relative? Brittany Bowens looked at that reporter real hard and told her, my relatives live out of town. What about the woman that took you to the airport? What about your friends? You have female friends because they were all around you at the little press conference. You couldn't have got one of those women to watch Malia. It's things like that that are making you look more and more suspicious. Yes, I am really waiting to see those phone records, because those phone records will show what time Brittany Bowens left the house and exactly where she went when she left the house. Those phone records will show where Darren Vince went the day he put that trash bag in the trunk of the car. It will show exactly where he went. And it will show where did he go the day that he claimed to be abducted. By Darren Vince being an out-of-towner, I'm quite sure that he lied with his father and with his brother. So those phone records will show that. And if he was having some type of contact with his dad, his brother, or Brittany Bowens. And what about this mistress that Darren Vince supposedly has? Was he corresponding with her during the time Brittany Bowens was out of town? I'm quite sure he was, if that was actually his mistress. I know that Malia's body was found in Arkansas. So out of this group of people, someone's phone should show that they went to Arkansas. Darren Vince was supposedly lost for 24 hours. Those phone records will show where he was for those 24 hours. Darren Vince showed up at the hospital. Those phone records will show where he came from before he came to the hospital. When Darren Vince supposedly took Malia to school and they turned them around because she did not have her helmet, those phone records will show whether or not, if he called Brittany Bowens to let her know that the school was not going to accept Malia that day. Really, I can't see what the holdup is. They have enough evidence right now to bring charges upon Brittany Bowens, Joe Jr., and they have enough evidence to enhance the charges against Darren Vince. This is costing the taxpayers money. The more time that they pretend that they have to work on this case, the more money is going to be needed to try the case. If anything, Brittany Bowens is guilty of being negligent, so at least try her with that. Why should she have the luxury to be free when she didn't give Malia the right to continue to live? Why is Darren Vince only charged with tampering with evidence when the child was in his care? He has no alibis. The lie he told about an abduction, there is no proof of it. let's say for the sake of argument that Malia's death was an accident, but in Malia's condition, with her head injury, if he allowed some rough horseplay or allowed her to injure herself, he's negligent because the child needs special care and to be monitored 24 hours a day. Darian Vince was negligent for allowing the death to happen. Brittany Bowens is negligent because she allowed a person who is inept to care for her child. All of this talk about Brittany Bowens not having enough money to take Malia with her to her father's funeral is just a damn lie. Your mother said that you have a large family and a lot of support. Out of all those family members, you couldn't have got enough money to take Malia to her grandfather's funeral. You couldn't have got it from your mother. She's like, she got a little change. All of this talk about you wanting justice for Malia is just a bunch of talk, because you're not showing that. You're not out here hooting and hollering about getting justice for your child. You're showing up for photo ops, going to court to see Darian Vince, instead of crying and screaming to the top of your lungs that Darian Vince should be hanged. You still running around here pretending as if you don't know what happened, that you don't know whether or not he really did kill your baby or not. Maybe he's telling the truth. Someone mentioned the gag order involving CPS with Brittany Bowens. They might not be allowed to speak on it, but that doesn't mean that they won't bring it up in court. Although they are two separate cases, these two cases depend on each other. Because at one time, there was allegations of abuse in the home. And shortly thereafter, the child was placed back into the home and wind up being dumped on the side of the road in Arkansas. What I hate about CPS and a lot of these agencies is that they hate to admit when they made a mistake, when they messed up. And everyone knows that they messed up, but they just hate to admit it. If you have a health problem, how can the doctor help you if he doesn't examine you to see exactly what's wrong? He just can't look at you and say, well, you're okay, and you know that you are sick. When these places like CPS come out, oftentimes they don't do a good examination. They just kind of give a look over. They allow the people that are being investigated to tell them that there are no problems, that everything is okay. Sometimes when people feel threatened or they feel as if they're about to get in trouble, they do this one thing: they lie. When Brittany Bowens said that there were no problems in the home, she lied. Malia Davis ended up dead. CPS dropped the ball on this case. And I am praying that HPD will not drop the ball on this case. Stop trying to save certain people. If certain people get sucked into it because of their involvement or blunders Oh well.